Good evening. I would like to call to order the Kaiser Personnel Policy Committee. It is Monday, July 22nd, 2024. And let's go ahead and do a roll call for the record, please.
Councilor Reed?
Here.
Mayor Clark?
Here.
Council President Starr?
Here.
All right, thank you very much. The first item of business is approval of the minutes from April. I know that was a while ago.
I have a correction.
Okay.
On page 3 of the minutes, under Huggins Insurance, there's just a misspelling of Huggins.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Otherwise, I move approval.
Second?
The minutes have been moved and seconded as corrected. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Let's go to a discussion of the proposed municipal court judge observation form.
And I can report to you guys that at your last meeting, we brought forward a form that was similar to this, but was lacking in a few ways that you guys wanted to see. And so this is coming back with some of those changes. I'll say most of that has to do with the scoring was 1 to 5, and the way in which the other employees are scored by the council is 1 through 4. So match that up. The areas of evaluation tried to change some of the terms to be more kind of universal colloquial terms so that they're more self-explanatory, so there wasn't that need for maybe a glossary. And so there's still 10 categories. And really, and then each line, I gave a line just in case somebody wanted to have what was happening in real time. Like if there was an example of appropriate temperament, there's a line now where a quick note could be made. So because before there was only additional comments or feedback at the bottom. So now there's a line that can be used anytime there's a real world example of these things. And then really the admonition at the top is still present, which is this is really for an evaluation or an observation, not an evaluation. And then if anything is lacking or lackluster, then what that does is that triggers you guys to say we can go into exec session and talk about it that way. So this is really kind of a way to clue in when something's not working, as opposed to, it's he's a contractor, so if he's doing the contract and he's doing it sufficiently, that's fine. But if he's below standard in any of these areas, then that would trigger you guys wanting to go into an exec session to do a more evaluative sort of process.
Thank you for this next iteration of this observation form. We'll need to put something where that dashed line is clear that is for notes.
Okay.
And because that way,
There's the asterisk.
right, but it's for examples, but maybe something simple, examples or notes. And again, I jumped right over it, or maybe something
I could
that,
put the word notes in like a italicized
yeah,
or something.
oh, sure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would also like to, this should be a obvious thing, but when we use dash lines for any examples, making sure that they know specific examples like names, they can talk about a traffic case or what kind of case it was, but just to make sure that there are no names, because this would be part of public record.
Okay.
Right, and it's not evaluating the merits of a particular case, but we're observing the way in which the judge is conducting that business.
Yeah.
Council President Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When I was scanning and reviewing the notes, I think Councilor Reed had made the suggestion to ask the judge
Oh, thank you.
Did that happen?
It did. I sent this form to him, and he had no additions, and he said it looked fine to him.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for double check.
One other thing that we do in other evaluations is more along the lines of 3 or good is meets expectations. that is something that we use. I'm looking at Mr. Pina, because on our other city manager, city attorney evaluation, we have more of a meets rather than a quote good. To me, that feels clear. I'd like to ask for your observations on that.
I would say that that is accurate. However, there may be a reason the city attorney chose different language just to make it clear this is not an evaluation.
Okay, that's fair enough.
So I'd let him clarify that.
And I'm just trying to create categories that you guys can feel usable. So if you want, there was nothing necessarily magical about it. So if there is categories that you think are more usable, because you guys will be the ones using them, I'm plenty happy with that. So if you want it to exactly match, I guess, is the number 3 the meets?
That, if I remember correctly, is the equivalence in our other 2 evaluations that we do. When I think of exceeds expectations, I'm pleasantly surprised, or wow, that is out of the box, or creative way to solve a problem. Meets expectations, wow, this is running smoothly. Things are going as I would expect for a professional. That's the difference in my head. Council President Starr?
Well, I think this is more of a process clarification. Once it goes from here, does it go to the city council to be approved for process?
It does.
Yeah, okay. I was just thinking, maybe making a note of like the 2, right? Here or here, so,
Give a choice.
yeah.
Okay. Easy.
Councilor Reed?
Thank you. I would agree just in terms of consistency, either meets expectations or good and excellent. Just so we don't have a mixture of the 2, and maybe that's pedantic, but
No, that's cool. So those will be that.
either
again, those
either
options.
or, either good or excellent, or meets expectations, exceeds expectations.
Okay. Easy enough. Plus, it's nice because I think it's still kind of brief enough. You know what I mean? That everything can kind of almost jump out at you a little bit. So
So back to my first comment, when, because my eye jumped straight over the scoring, use dash line for any examples. We could do examples, comma, notes.
okay. Notes.
That would at least make it clear.
And would
how
you
I read
want
it.
me to, on the very first line, do like an italicized notes?
No,
That's not necessary?
no, but that would end up on each one, and that, I think, would clutter up the page.
Okay.
Anything else on this? This is really nice to have. Thanks for thinking this through, so we can have something written down that we can hand to our future council members as we go through this process.
Okay, cool.
All right, we good with this? I don't know that we,
If I make these changes, would you prefer then it come within a few meetings to the council?
yes,
Okay.
I have no objection to that. Council President Starr, are you good?
I'm good with that, thank you.
Councilor Reed? Okay,
Okay.
go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go through the second quarter of 2024 report. Mr. Pina?
Still on. Okay. Starting with recruitment and selection, the only item I have listed is the HR director recruitment because you get updates on everything else. But it just so happens in our city manager's weekend update, he provided a one-line update to you that is a little bit more information than what I put in the report. I did mention that within the next few weeks, there would be an interview with the executive leadership team, and Adam shared in his weekend update that those interviews will happen the first week of August. So that is an update to this document.
Okay.
The rest of the information there was just bringing forward some information we shared last quarter about how we're planning to run operations as soon as that person comes on board. And that means if we're lucky enough to make an offer to one of the candidates being interviewed the first week of August, this is my last PPC meeting. I will miss you, yes.
Oh,
Because we have these quarterly. And so I would anticipate backgrounds and references and things happening soon enough that the person would be in place by the time of our next meeting, which is October 28th.
Okay, because you had through the end of the year, but you
yeah.
anticipate that the projects that you would be working on would be completed?
Oh, absolutely not. I'll be coordinating with City Manager Brown on the overlap time, but as you guys know, when we put out our original spreadsheet when we were recruiting for the exec level positions, we were looking at 2-month overlaps. So we're looking around that time frame to see what can be done. My highest priority is the implementation of the HRIS, and we will be jumping forward a little because this is later, but we will be doing our sample runs in September and our first live payroll in October. But that will be the implementation of the first phase. We still have another full phase with additional items after that. So, and I anticipate that will take at least a couple of months. So my goal is to get as far along in that process as possible before I go out the door. But that'll be Adam's decision when. Yeah.
Well, it'd be his decision, but I imagine in coordination with you and the other.
Oh, absolutely. And the new HR director. And, you know, once they come on board and we share everything that's on the table at a level that they are able to take a few minutes and gather all of that, I'm sure it'll be a collaborative discussion about what makes the most sense.
Okay.
But like our city attorney's transition, on day one, when the new HR director is on board, they will be the HR director, and I will be working on projects. So everything will go through them, and they will attend all the meetings, and I will, again, be working on the high-priority projects.
Gotcha. Okay. So by the time of the next PPC meeting, the new HR director would be here, and
Correct.
how you and the city manager and the HR director plan the work from there in the emeritus role would be there.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So I physically won't be here, and we learned, and I took a note from feedback from the council, that it is best to just have the primary person here and not two people. So that's why you're going to only see them. Now, that is presuming we are able to offer and successfully hire on this round. If it happens that the panel doesn't or decides not to hire the finalists that they're looking at right now, we will simply post a new review date and put the word out that we're still accepting applications, even though that is the case right now. Folks pretty much know once you have a posted date of review that there are candidates in the line. And so if we want to encourage new applications to come in, we'll have to update everyone and say, we are now back out and we have a new review date scheduled.
Similar to what we did with the police chief process.
Correct.
We changed the review date.
When we do that, I anticipate that Kristen and Megan will send out notification to all of the folks we advertised with, kind of refreshing everything.
Okay. Thank you. Council President Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Tapini, you said when we do that, or was that an if we do that?
If we do that.
If we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we won't post a second date if an offer is made.
Okay.
So it'll be only after, if there is a determination that we're not moving forward with any of those candidates, that we would do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions? Okay. Wow. Okay.
I would share, since we already kind of touched the HRIS, which is later in the report, It's payroll and benefits and some onboarding that goes live in October. The things that'll still be left to implement are recruitment, candidate self-service, performance management, salary administration, learning management, and any special reports that we want designed into the system. People Guru has 400 reports available, but every organization has unique things that they like to have in play, and so that'll be something that we would still be working on. Yes.
Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. DePina, if I recall correctly, and my memory might be a little wobbly on this one, was it that People Guru hadn't been in Oregon before? There was something about them and this that was...
We are the first public entity in Oregon for People Guru.
How is it going?
It's been great. We haven't run into any issues. We are on time with our timelines. We have not missed any deadlines. Yeah.
Everybody knock.
We haven't missed any deadlines. They've been very flexible when we've had to shift a timeline by a few days or a week just because of workload, because we have limited bodies. But we are right now on schedule and on time.
Wow. That's impressive for an IS implementation.
So far,
Like
so
knock
good.
on wood, right? Yep. Okay, great. Thank
So far,
you.
so good.
Yes, indeed.
Because we had it on our last report as something in action, I just confirm next that the city manager and city attorney evaluations were completed. And I did note for the record that I ran into some difficulties finalizing materials in preparation for the exec session due to the tool that the city is currently using to download data from external sources. And so fortunately, I'm hoping that we won't have to deal with that the next time the evaluations are done, because we will be using People Guru's performance management, and one of the challenges will be how to integrate our current city manager and city attorney evaluation process into their product. So hopefully, if we're successful in that, we're not going to have to deal with the transition issue, because we'll download from SurveyMonkey into People Guru rather than the product we're using now.
Well, and I might add, and looking to both of you for input, if there are opportunities for making improvements in our process, I know I'm open to that conversation.
Absolutely.
Oh, always, yeah. Okay. And I think we should ask the people that are being evaluated too, just like Counselor Reed suggested that we ask the judge for his input on this one.
Yeah, what's helpful information? What kind of feedback has spurred changes, opportunities, food for thought, that sort of thing, I think would be really helpful. And perhaps ask that same question generally of the council when we get into that phase is, what did we learn? What were things that were helpful to us to understand the job, the context of the work that we learned through the evaluation process? So I think it's an opportunity for some reflection. I appreciate that thought. Okay, pets.
I had the opportunity for maybe one weekend to start the work back again on finalization of the personnel policy manual. And as I was going through the material, I realized we have three separate policies that are temporary policies. Two are safety-related ones that are getting folded into the safety manual, the smoke policy and the heat policy that we worked on with OSHA. And then the third one is this temporary pet visitation policy, which was enacted by our interim city manager via an email that went out to all staff.
I remember that.
And when he sent out his email, that was his way of kind of defining, here are the parameters of what we're going to try out on a trial basis. I did attach a waiver disclaimer type form that I worked on with CIS to help limit the city's liability should there be an issue with a pet that's brought in to the City Hall area. So I took a little bit of time to formalize this after talking with the exec leadership team to confirm that they were interested in letting this temporary policy continue to exist, and they were not interested yet in making it a formal ongoing policy. So in order to make it more consistent with the other two temporary policies, I just formalized the memo into more appropriate policy language. And then on the list of locations where pets are not allowed, we added 3 or 4 locations, because in the original, the only thing that was really mentioned was any areas where employees are eating. That didn't take into consideration places like bathrooms and our quiet room / lactation room. I don't think someone who's using that room as a lactation room would be thrilled to have someone's pets in there, because you're trying to keep that area clean. And the Zen room, because
It's a Zen room.
it's a Zen room.
Person Zen, maybe a dog. Another person Zen, maybe a lack of dog.
And then we wanted to clarify that it is really only the employee work areas where this is taking place. It's not the fitness room, it's not the event center, it's not the council chambers, because we do have rules and stickers on our doors entering the building saying that only those animals that are service animals are allowed in the building. So we wanted to make sure it was clear that just because you are being provided this visitation opportunity, that doesn't mean you parade your pet through the public areas.
Councilor Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of questions. So this is, again, pretty obvious, but with the expansion to the police department, obviously they're not going on patrol.
Oh, absolutely not. There is language that clarifies that every request has to be approved by the department director and the city manager, and it's based on the type of work you do.
Okay.
And so there are obviously employees who know not to bother asking if their work is not that would support it. It was previously not allowed in the police department because our former chief of police thought that it was not a good idea. Our current chief of police would like those who are in positions where it is viable to allow them to also be able to participate.
So my other question is, so with this list of locations where they're not allowed, which I agree with, is there somewhere they can go if, like, the employee has to go to the bathroom, for instance, or if the employee has to go in one of those places and they have a pet that is not supposed to go? Is there some kind of...
The whole idea
with it?
behind this pet visitation policy, it's not your pet is here all day. It's they're here for a visit. So it's up to you as the employee to schedule or request that at a time when there's not going to be a reason for you to have to hand them off to someone else. And it specifically says it is not allowed for you to enlist others to be babysitters for your pet. You have to be in control of them.
At all times?
Council President Starr?
Is there a list of acceptable pets that can be brought? Or is... Yes, exactly.
Tarantula?
I went there.
I'm thinking, how did you know?
It's amazing, yes.
There was actually a joke in the email from interim city manager Wes Hare that that Michelle might bring her emu to work, ha ha, and, that we had to pay attention to the fact that certain pets may not get along with other pets. And so that's why we do have a calendar process where if you get approved for this, everybody who is bringing a pet has to sign up on the calendar so folks know who's here and when, what kind of pet, and what days and hours they'll be here. It really has not been an issue in the couple of years it's been in place. The only animals that have been brought are dog and cat. And the cat was just once and by an employee that isn't here anymore. So we have very limited use of this policy right now. We have put it back out to folks to let them know that it exists and it is still there. And I got only one contact from another employee asking questions about being able to bring their pet. So I think it's going to be limited in use. It's just a feel-good that it's an option. But the idea is it should not be disrupting folks' work. They should not come to meetings unless everyone in the meeting is agreeable to them being there. And it's up to each pet owner to make sure that they're only bringing a pet that's well-behaved and should be in this kind of environment and isn't aggressive to other animals, et cetera.
And just to make sure, in case anybody is listening, this is not inclusive of the Comfort Canine.
No. This is a separate program.
Great, thank you.
Exactly, it says here, so putting this on the recording, employees requiring the use of legally registered service animals as allowed by law are not bound by the requirements of this policy. So, yes. And so you're glad to know, it sounds like nobody has bought their pet snake.
At the same time as they bring their pet mouse.
Correct.
In the Zen room.
Thank you.
put in badly.
When interim city manager Hare sent out the email, we had a hilarious email returned from a particular employee who superimposed a picture of their pet horse looking over the cubicle wall at coworkers. It was
I remember
pretty funny.
That was hilarious.
Thank you for that.
All right.
No class and comp information to report at this time. It's a rare time when I'm not working on some sort of classification review, so thank goodness for that. In labor relations, we have activity in a number of venues. We're currently working with the chief of police to remind the KPA regarding their current MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, regarding the city's work after retirement policy, because the current MOU ends at the end of December. So any employee who now requests work after retirement under our updated policy would not be covered by that MOU. So if the KPA wants to restore or reenact a policy specific to the new dates, they'll have to work with us to do that. So we're kind of prompting them or reminding them of that. The thing that they were primarily focused on with the last MOU was the clarification that those rehired after retirement must go first if there's a layoff, regardless of their seniority.
And these are all the things we just worked on recently as a council when we approved this policy to move forward. Okay.
As I shared in an email to you on June 5th, we have a new union, which is called Kaiser Police Association Sergeants. And at this time, we have, or as of June 12th, we were provided a notice from the attorney for the newly formed bargaining unit telling us of their intent to begin contract negotiations with the city. So at their request, we've provided a lot of information about the benefits the city has been providing to sergeants to aid in their preparation for bargaining. And our city attorney, Joseph Lindsay, is going to be the lead negotiator for the city rather than us using a contracted labor attorney. But we will reach out to our labor attorneys if there is a need. And they're on board and are aware of that and prepared for that. With the Laborers International Union, at the time that I submitted this document, we were waiting for signed final copy of the collective bargaining agreement. On Friday, we received that. So everything is signed and sealed, and we'll have that posted on our website within the week or so.
Fantastic. Just one question.
Sure.
How many are in the new union? 5, okay. Thank you. Okay. Counselor Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So is this on this, well, I know that this first one is not on the same cycle as the regular KPA bargaining. Is this eventually going to get on the same, or is this just going to be a third thing to do altogether?
I anticipate that they will choose to bargain at the same time, but they are two separate unions, or two separate entities, although both are called Kaiser Police Association, and both will use the same union attorneys. They have to remain separate by legislative statute.
So that's on their initiative to figure out that timeline? Okay.
And it's something that we bargain, so that's not something we know at this point in time. It's just our presumption, not based on any direct knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else? Okay, benefits.
Benefits. We are still, HR department as a whole, laboring under the increased workload of the changes to the Federal Family Medical Leave Act, the Oregon Family Leave Act, and the Oregon Paid Family Leave Act. Primarily the additional work because of having that additional incentive of the Oregon paid leave. Right now, the workload for our HR generalist is similar to the additional workload we had during the time we were doing all the tracking in COVID. So it's a good chunk of her time, 75 to 80% is on leave management and administration. The good news is that we continue to be very comfortable with our initial decision to go with standard insurance rather than go through the state. They have been working with us well. We are in the process right now of getting a renewal of that alternative plan through the state. We filled out the paperwork last week. It takes a couple months for the state to confirm that we get to do it another year. But that is our intent.
Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Will this be something, or will this particular component be something that the new system will maybe provide some workload relief?
One of the reasons we picked People Guru is we had the impression that we would have more flexibility in how we're coding our time so that there's a little less hand coding of leave balances. And it appears that that is going to be the case. So while I do believe there'll be less time commitment once everything is set up, just because it'll be easier to streamline and keep forms and processes up to date. The best benefit, I think, is that we won't be hand tallying time, because each of the leave acts has different start and end times and amount of leave available, and we can program all of that into the HRIS so that Kristen doesn't have to calculate it for every employee for all 3 leave requirements. So yes.
Thank you.
That is huge.
We've already talked about HRIS. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that our first phase is a portion of the project. And then from November on, we'll be implementing the rest of it. But the behemoth amount of work is really the payroll and benefits and getting that out of the way. And the rest is, I'm hoping, easier and just a lot of fine tuning. And as you have mentioned, part of the work is where we've told them directly in our planning meetings, we're not interested in duplicating everything we do by hand. We're interested in the best way moving forward. So we get the impression in meeting with them that they've had to customize a lot of things to match people's prior preconceived notions of we have to do it this way. And they kind of laugh and cheer each time we get on a subject, and they say, so how do you do that now, and do we need to duplicate that? And we're like, no, this is what we need. This is all we need. Show us what's the best way to go forward based on your experience working with other employers, based on the tools that you have available. So far, we have identified 2 things that we want in the program that they have said is on their to-do list but hasn't been implemented yet. So we feel good that we're on the same page with them about even ways to improve what they already have in the program.
Beautiful. Data for data's sake is not terribly helpful.
And taking a process that wasn't the best and duplicating it electronically is not helpful if you have a real opportunity to make improvements. So, and I think one of the areas where there might be a little employee pain, but we're hoping to be able to counter that with all of the benefits is how we will be doing real-life time capture versus filling out paper forms. And that is something we really need to transition to because of the previously discussed Home Depot case, where it's been clarified that you need to pay for real time, not averaging or guesstimating or saying that you're going to pay for this much time before and after, that it needs to be actual time worked. So the system is going to help us with that.
Mr. Lindsay?
Well, and that just to be clear too, because I know the question is there generating a little bit, is this is for folks who are non-exempt.
Yeah.
So this is for folks that are hourly to begin with, and then we just have to keep really good records of their hours and make sure they take their breaks because they have rights. So we want to pay them for every minute they work, and we want to make sure that they take breaks accordingly. So that's that.
Awesome. Thank you for the update on the HRS, and again, another huge leap in processes from bearskins and stone knives to modern technology. All right, let's go to risk management.
Our fourth quarter Safety Committee meeting took place on July 3rd, so a couple days into the next quarter, but we got it done. We talked about building security and changes in the emergency evacuation procedures and results of a recent city-county insurance best practices assessment. That particular item, we had a meeting on June 12th. It was City Manager Brown and City Recorder Bissett and myself that met with the CIS representative and went over 92 different topics citywide as far as what our status was. And there were only a couple of items that CIS is going to provide recommendations on for improvement, and they are based on things for which they have had claims filed in other cities. None of them are things that we have concerns about, but we'll add them to our inspection reports just to make sure we're looking for them. For example, one of the things they suggested was when you are looking at parking lots. If you have curbs in your parking lot, inspect to make sure that none of them are broken and the metal rod is sticking up. And if it is, you notate it, you mark it, and you plan for the correction immediately. Another was looking for beehives in park equipment.
We have had that.
Yeah. So there are, I think, 3 or 4 things like that that they said that they would submit back to us as recommendations. And then there was also a conversation about whether we do background checks on folks who are volunteers and in what situations. And so that is something we've asked. We've provided some information to them and asked for their advice back. So I'm sure that will be shared with y'all as soon as we get that report. They did say at the end, I asked them, how do we compare? Because she travels around the state doing this, and she said that we're certainly in the top 10%. I think it's higher than that, but she's new. The quarterly safety inspections took place in the Public Works Shop on July 2nd, and on Park Shop on June 25th, and Police on June 25th. Everything that was noted was addressed either at the time of the inspection or within a couple of days. One interesting thing that happened with the police inspection is they were notified by an employee of an $8 tool that you could order from Amazon that would let you get into 4 doors in the police department. They ordered the tool and tried it, and it worked. These are doors that were secured differently than the rest of the doors, and this was part of the original building design. So we have ordered the replacement parts to fix that, and it's already done and resolved. But that was an interesting thing to have happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was very proactive on that employee's part. Way to go.
To try it out and see, and then guess what? Ta-da. Yeah. So that is resolved and fixed and no longer an issue.
Well done.
What else? Workers' comp. We had 2 new reports this quarter so far. They were both sworn officers injured in the line of duty, short time loss, and both are back to work. And then the previously reported closed 2021 claim that was appealed, denied, resubmitted, and rescheduled to June 26. The attorney and former employee did not show up to the hearing, and we were notified that SAFE has decided to take action to settle the claim without discussion with us.
What?
Yeah,
Can they do that?
yes, they can.
Ah,
So we have requested that our representative, again, look for other potential workers' comp vendors that we might be willing to bid for municipal coverage for the next fiscal year. They are the entity that covers the majority of municipalities, but there's at least one vendor out there that has been identified that does cover municipalities. So we hope that we can get some information and see if there might be an opportunity to transition. Meanwhile, my lack of happiness with this topic has been shared, and I'm waiting for a response from management there.
second that unhappiness with
Yes.
their decision and action. Second guessing the customer's not great plan.
They are actually following typical protocol. We're just unique in that we don't want to settle even if it costs a bit more. And we've been very clear about that position because we had it happen once before. And when it did happen, they apologized profusely and said at a minimum, they would at least contact us first, and they didn't do it this time. So that's the unhappiness.
And then follow up, and I'll go to Council President Starr. This would come out of their pocket, not ours. I don't know.
the way insurance usually works, right, is that it comes out of their pocket initially. But
it
then,
comes out of
yeah,
ours.
your rates system-wide will go up, so they usually get their money in the end. But I think they're operating under the assumption that the path of least resistance ends up being the one that is the least costly. They kind of weigh out even the cost of litigating or, and all that sort of thing. But I am echoing your sentiment that what's the point of having a contractual relationship if they can just go off on their own and do whatever the heck they want, so.
Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. DePina, is it, you said they're following protocol. Is that their internal process? Is it statute that gives them that right to do that? And then is it, if it's not in statute that gives them that right, is it something that we can, if we don't get the opportunity to be with a different vendor, is that something that we can write into our service agreement contract or some kind of a policy agreement with them that if they don't consult you or us, that they pay it and we don't get that tagged back onto our?
I believe, and I haven't looked at this particular item, but they usually have what in law we call a contract of adhesion, which is they pretty much are the only game in town, and so a lot of the terms are pretty similar across all of their people they insure, and sometimes that's a little bit of like pulling teeth to get them to change certain terms. But I would assume that they have something in there that says, and I'll double check, but I believe that it will say something to the effect of they reserve the right to settle cases, so that they, to put them to bed, and so without, our consent, and so that would be what I would expect to find in their terms, and I'll look and I'll report back.
Because if it's not.
Yeah.
I have to say that they have found us challenging to work with because we are asking for things regularly that their customers don't ask for, like detailed billing statements that actually tell us line by line what we're being charged for. That's not the norm. The employers just pay whatever they submit as a bill, and we ask for that specifically. The other thing is, I think they agreed with we'll communicate with you as a customer service item, not necessarily because they're in any way required to do so. They're trying to keep us happy. But obviously they didn't follow through in this situation. The lead attorney was very clear that from his perspective, this was the right thing to do because they believe that they can reach an agreement for what they consider a minimal amount compared to what has been being requested for 3 years. And they definitely are at a point where they feel, at least his response to me is they feel that continuing to push it down the road isn't going to resolve it because this attorney will not stop.
Thank you.
Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe that isn't this the case where the state unemployment board was also involved? And did they come down with? Okay.
No, that's a different one.
Okay, never mind.
No, different employee, different case.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. So, last item is Huggins Insurance. This is a follow-up from fourth quarter meeting where information was requested about our professional relationship with Huggins and contractual protocols. The first quarter meeting, we reported review and research was in progress, and the requested information is provided in the final paragraph of our report. essentially that we began our professional relationship with Huggins in 1982 after a solicitation for proposals. Since '82, the city has requested proposals from interested agents at least 3 times. It appears the last time a formal proposal was solicited was 1996. The current amount of the contract with Huggins is $15,000 per fiscal year. An informal solicitation process is warranted at this time, and the city recorder will initiate that process this current fiscal year, abiding by our newly adopted public contracting ordinance.
That will answer that question.
That's the answer to that question.
All right. Sounds good.
We have one future meeting date, October 28th. In the past, we have held off on scheduling the meetings for the following year until we confirm who the Personnel Policy Committee members are.
Yep, there's an election in between, so there's going to be change.
And that's it.
Fantastic. Anything for further questions? I have none myself. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your work on this and anticipating that between now and the October meeting, there will be a new director and you will move to the emeritus status. I want to say thank you.
Yes, indeed.
It's been an absolute pleasure working with you, and I've learned tons from you. And I've really appreciated the level of professionalism and thought and thoroughness you put into your care for our employees. And I appreciate that. All right. Thank you very much. The time is 6:51. We are adjourned.